I want people to understand what mutual aid means. It's very good and wholesome and community driven. And Chris, my partner, and I had an idea for an app that was kind of going to be down the road, and we just thought, why can't we kind of pivot and make this applicable to the pandemic? So we got it going quickly. You can make a request for up to $300, and there's a place to put the category if it's rent, utilities, food, childcare, and then you can write a message, and then folks can go onto the app and look through all of the open requests and then give directly to the request via like Venmo or Cash App. So it's nice because it kind of takes out this charity role in things where, you know, I believe a lot in, like you said, I do care about the community, but I also know that I don't have everything. I don't have all the answers. I'm not here to like solve everyone's problems. I have problems too, and my neighbors come through for me the same way I want to come through for them, you know?
Welcome back to the Positive People Posse Living Room. I'm your host, Dom Green, life enthusiast and marketer of Positive People Posse. This is where we sit down with entrepreneurs, businessmen and women, risk takers, and people of all kinds and just talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and uplifting. Today's sponsor is Positive People Posse 3P Media. We are your digital marketing services company. And my guest today is going to be none other than Lindsay Smith with the Merry Outlaw. Lindsay, thanks for being on the living room today.
Thanks for having me.
You sound so excited.
I'm so excited.
Let's talk about your mood right now. Let's just jump right into it and talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and uplifting. Like, you know, you're not really feeling like yourself today, but you are here.
I'm here.
Okay, and why is that?
I mean, it's Thanksgiving and I'm quarantined, so I have no one else to talk to today. So.
You're quarantined because of this thing called
the COVID. I think I have it. I don't know. So
you're playing it safe though.
Yeah. That's
good. You know, it's unfortunate that we can't be with our friends and family sometimes because of the pandemic and the way that we really want to. But at least you're doing your part. Mm-hmm. But let's just kind of get back to where it all started with us. You and I socially met probably about like 5 years ago. I don't know how long it's been, but we've been familiar with one another for quite some time. It's growing up in Kansas City myself, the familiarity with people, you only have a couple degrees of separation from a lot of people. And so if you're starting something, there's going to be a lot of crossover, or there's going to be, everyone's going to really know about it in the town of KC for the most part, right?
Yeah.
So just let's talk about the Merry Outlaw, so a little bit about your past, like how'd you get to this point right now where you're doing something for your community and trying to solve a problem and need in your community?
Yeah. So I started off as a social worker, and I was working in child welfare, and I was really disappointed and fatigued and discouraged, I think, by the system, and just wondered if I could spend my whole career there doing these things, just sort of keeping the wheel turning and not making any big changes. And not to say that the people who are still working in that system, I mean, we need them for sure, but I just wanted to explore more creative ways to work within my community. So I originally wanted to start this whole restaurant concept, and it's funny how things change over time. Like it seemed like the greatest idea ever, and then you really have to be open when you're starting something to hearing about like what the community really needs and what's actually realistic. And so it's changed a lot, the Merry Outlaw has, and I think that it's where it's supposed to be now. I guess we can talk in a little bit about the mutual aid work that we're doing, but yeah, it's just kind of gone from how can I challenge the status quo and have this creative organization that sort of addresses some of the problems that we want to address in social work, and do it in a way that maybe makes more sense.
Yeah, pivoting is really key for any startup in business. You have to spot and identify a clear path on how you can make an impact, and actually get people, supporting. There has to be some support there. We want to do cool things, we want to do creative things all day, but like day in, day out, it can be a struggle if you only live in creativity without any stability as far as, like the day to day, you know what I mean? So, for you and I, so when you started the Merry Outlaw, what year was it? Was it last year? Or was it the year before?
It was February of 2019 officially.
Okay. So I started a Positive People Posse through P Media, probably around July. It was July of 2018. And so had this like leap start, but for us, what we really wanted to do, we wanted to work with businesses, the entire time we really did. But we also had that social impact. And for us, working with businesses and providing inclusive messaging and marketing and different things, it never really looked like what we said Positive People Posse was. And people really didn't know exactly who we were. And it was kind of by design, but also it kind of came by insecurity in a way too, because sometimes you don't want to just share your full idea.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you share your full idea, someone can poke holes at it or, shit on your dream. And, for me, I've always just kind of had my head in the clouds. I always think, a lot further down the road, but, sometimes I'm apprehensive in sharing my dream because, it's not fully ready yet. And so you've had to pivot. We've kind of talked about that. So when you first went into the Merry Outlaw, like, what did you really want to do? And what did you want the response to be? We always think that's going to be the biggest thing from day one, right? And then we realize that, we got to grind at this. We got to grind for our dream.
Yeah. I remember a phone call with you after I called and told you about the incubator program that I had been accepted to. Remember that? And I was like freaking out because I didn't know if I'd made the right decision. I turned it down because I went with my big naive vision and explained it to these people who know way more about starting a business than I ever will. But I felt that I would be sacrificing some of the key pieces of the Merry Outlaw by going into this for-profit business model. And I was scared, and it was like this amazing opportunity that I can't believe I even got. But at the end of the day, I just had to follow my gut and realize that especially with a kind of social entrepreneurship plan, that I have to stick to my values. And so I turned it down, and I called Dom and was just like freaking out and didn't know what to do. And I think you were like, I think you should probably do it, but I understand, why that's scary. But
the way I remember it is I always try to play neutral. It was really like, you had two choices. Either you want to be business for profit, or you want to be nonprofit. And those are two separate business models. And a nonprofit is definitely a business model, but sustainability of nonprofits is just a different path. And so, there's struggles and there's benefits on both sides. And but I feel like gut instinct, if you feel wholeheartedly about something, then you're willing to adopt that. Mm-hmm. But if it's not your idea and it's someone else's, sometimes that just doesn't feel right. It's not going to sit right, and it's never going to be right. Mm-hmm. And so, whatever my bias would be on that phone call,
you calmed me down.
Calm down. I've been there. I've started businesses that failed, and started businesses that are successful, and somewhere in between. And, we get burned out sometimes when things don't go our way, because we don't have anyone else there, pushing us, or anyone else there that's sharing the same vision. And yeah, it's difficult, it's difficult to be on that side by yourself. But if you build that community, and that, you really get it clear and concise, people are going to respond. And, that leads to the next thing. The community has responded to the mutual aid aspect. And, it's so exciting to see someone who's like, really about, giving back and being of service to community and families, and doing your part. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do shit. Like, for you, that's innate. So round of applause. Good job. Good job. So let's talk about the mutual aid fund.
Yeah. So I will say that, like, back in the should I start a for-profit business days, when I turned that down, I had no idea what was next. And I have a mentor, and it was a lot of people who understood my vision telling me just to be open to what Kansas City needs. And I definitely wanted to be careful about coming in and saying, like, especially as a white woman, like, this is what I'm doing. This is what's right for this, neighborhood. And here I am. So it was nice to sort of sit back and take it in and hear from other folks what is needed. So then when COVID happened, we had a bunch of projects lined up that were supposed to start in April that were very gathering based, food based. And so those all were immediately canceled. And Chris, my partner, and I had an idea for an app that was kind of going to be down the road. And we just thought, why can't we kind of pivot and make this applicable to the pandemic? So we got it going quickly. Chris is a genius. He built the app from scratch quickly. I think it was like 2 weeks before we were up and going. So basically on the app, you can make a request for up to $300, and there's a place to put the category if it's rent, utilities, food, childcare, and then you can write a message, and then folks can go onto the app and look through all of the open requests and then give directly to the request via like Venmo or Cash App. So it's nice because it kind of takes out this charity role in things where, I believe a lot in, like you said, I do care about the community, but I also know that I don't have everything. I don't have all the answers. I'm not here to like solve everyone's problems. I have problems too. And my neighbors come through for me the same way I want to come through for them, So it was important to create a space that was safe and comfortable for people who were making requests, and wasn't, that still allowed for dignity, and, keeping your request anonymous if you wanted to. So I think we've raised, let me look, 27,000 so far of peer-to-peer donations. Yeah, almost 28,000. So definitely slowed down after the first few months of COVID, but if you're watching this, you should give.
Well, that's the thing, having that constant conversation, like that's why I really wanted to bring you on, because, momentum starts at the beginning a lot of times with any type of business. It doesn't matter, if you're launching a t-shirt line or whatever it is, it's the people in between that uplift you. And it's the constant marketing that you have to do in between as well. And, we are a marketing company, and, so we understand that, everyone's going to hit that low tide, but it's really about, being able to constantly, having a piece of marketing. And, with this, we've got 17,000 email subscribers. So if you're not subscribing to our email list, please keep on subscribing, because we're able to basically, highlight people like you. Like, I believe that, for us, first of all, it's good content. Second of all, it's like picking the brain of another entrepreneur, someone who started something that they believed in, and, having honest conversations about that. Mm-hmm. Every day is not going to be the easiest day, as you still have things going on in your everyday life, and and then you still do this, and you're being of service to people. We're a service to our clients, and I still have shit that goes on in my everyday life, but you have to like compartmentalize these things when you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And also deal with them all at the same time. So let's talk about some challenges that you face just in life in general. It doesn't have to be, it can be business, it can be life, and, things that just weigh on you. And
So this year has been really eye-opening for me personally, and for the Mary Outlaw, and I'm sure for everyone. It's just like, I don't even know there's nothing to say about it. It's all been said. It's train wreck of a year. But I think this year has taught me, I'm such a go-getter. I know you relate to this, Dom. I'm like will not rest ever. Like, don't sleep much. I'm fine with it. I'll do a million things at once. I can get it all done. And I've always loved that about myself. And I've gotten this positive reinforcement about my work ethic my whole life. And this year it was just like, well, things aren't going to go as planned. Like, all these plans I've been making for the Mary Outlaw for 6 months to a year, that it's done. Like, I can't fix it or adjust it. It's just, we need to start from scratch. And I hated it. Like, the first week I was really upset and I was thinking, okay, how am I going to make this work? And then I just kind of chilled out for a few weeks, and my grandmother passed at the beginning of quarantine, and my other grandmother passed just about a month and a half ago. And so I just I felt that I had this responsibility to the community because I've made all these promises with the Mary Outlaw, but I also needed to step back and like really, deal with my own shit for a while. So it's been a year of like learning how to rest. I've never been able to take a nap my entire life. Like, I think this year was my first ever actual nap. And I probably laid there for 2 hours with anxiety, like, go to sleep, Lindsay, just do it. But I'm learning how to rest and learning that it's not a failure to rest and rejuvenate. And, I can't be my best self personally or with the Mary Outlaw if I'm not taking care of me and really just like enjoying life. Like, there's not a lot to do now. I'm quarantined in my apartment by myself right now, and it's Thanksgiving, and I'm gonna read a book after this, and I'm gonna, cook some dinner by myself. And it doesn't always have to be like, how do I get to my next goal, So
it's so true. Observing the outside thinker is one thing that I've learned through a book called The Power of Now. And, just really like thinking about yourself, like even your old self last month or whatever. And you think about, all the things that were problems before the pandemic, like they seem a lot smaller now in a way. Mm-hmm. It's like you only knew what you knew, and you thought that you had to run at this speed because that's what everyone's doing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very sparingly with the advice that I give to people because I know it can be interpreted in many ways. My formula is much different than others. I'm like you. It's hard for me to take naps during the day, even if I lay in bed, like on a Saturday, I still have like a laptop there and I'm fucking working. Yeah. Like I didn't get up, but I'm up and I'm thinking and I'm wired, and I operate differently than other people. But when you see like yourself like doing things out of habit that aren't really making you feel good, I would say that this pandemic has brought in a lot of moods and emotions for a lot of people, and I think you kind of put yourself in check. That's what it sounds like. Yeah. And we have to put ourselves in check. It's like, okay, you have to talk to yourself. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make you crazy. You have to talk to yourself and say like, hey, this is not sustainable. Thinking or doing these activities or whatever it may be, whatever your issue may be, you have to talk to yourself and say like, does this make me feel good? That's the only type of advice I can give to people. I can't be matter of fact about anything. Just exploring through options and having those conversations with yourself and then other people that you respect. But you can't take advice from anyone and everyone because they don't know your day to day, and only you know what it's going to take for you to pursue that happiness.
Yeah, I think one thing that's helped me is like, when you start out with something, you feel like you have to jump on every single opportunity because you're new in the game and people don't know or trust your vision yet. So someone's like, hey, do you want to collaborate on this? And you're like, yes, I'll make it work. Like, we'll figure something out. And so the first year of the Mary Outlaw was a lot of that. And I had a lot of really cool partnerships that I don't regret at all, but it's nice now, like feeling confident in what the Mary Outlaw is and where it's going. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I know the values and I know the core of it. And so now it's like I can relax a little bit knowing that I don't need to take on every possible project or every single possible partnership to make this a good thing for the community. So, I mean, it's, I don't know, it's just kind of like a peaceful confidence of I am where I wanted to go. And now I just need to sort of be open, but also just chill. Like,
yes. Yes, I do wholeheartedly agree with you on that, because, you know, even with Positive People Posse 3P Media, for us, what we were and what we wanted to be, it was so many different things to people that they did not understand exactly what type of impact we wanted to have. And so the collaboration aspect, you know, a lot of opportunities presented themselves, and, you know, we turned things down. And like, no regrets at all. Some things that probably could have worked out really well, but other aspects, it was like, yo, we're throwing events. You know, we definitely threw some events, and people knew of us as an event company. And yet it was good and it was bad at the same time, because, you know, in some aspects, people only saw it as like, these guys just want to throw a bash, you know? And yo, I love throwing parties. I love throwing parties. But, you know, it's like some of our due diligence, what we were trying to do as far as raising, you know, funding for organizations, nonprofits, you know, that we could have did better had we came up with a better plan. And so, you know, like, we threw a lot of events last year, and our largest one, there was a shit ton of people there, but we lost a lot of money, and we did not get $1 donated to a charitable expense, you know? So basically through this large ego-filled party, it wasn't for ego. Like, I had this positive ego for sure. It's like I had this massive idea, and I have this massive idea still that I would love to help the world. But then your reality comes and it tells you, like, hey man, not everything you do is going to work, you know, like, and not everyone's going to feel the same level of emotion as you about something. I'm so connected to this, but no one else is. They're there to have a good time.
Yeah.
They're not like, oh, I'm having a good time and I'm giving back. Like, they don't really care. They really don't. They're drunk. They're having a good time. You know, like, I love creating those experiences, but like, I want to have a good time too, but I want to walk away knowing that I made a great impact in someone's life.
Yeah.
And even with Positive People Posse, yes, we are a for-profit business and we do marketing for people. Like, that's what we do. We do marketing for people, but we connect with people. We connect with business people. And like, these business people really are about helping other people. And so, you know, for me, I think the quickest path to help others change is to interact with businesses that want to do the same. You know, like, and change and help and impact can be empowering a business to get more revenue so they can hire someone else for opportunity, wherever it may be, but also just helping out a new marketing plan that makes people feel good. Like, the general audience, like helping people buy into their brand message and make them feel good and connect with understanding, you know, what their path is. Like, we could have did more of that. The same advice that we give to other people, we didn't take for ourselves. We did not tell people, like, the importance of, like, giving back, the importance of like the impact of, like, making people feel good. We created a good experience for them, which they felt good, but that's dopamine. It goes high and then it crashes. And then it's like, I want more, I want more, I want more. And people have been asking us, when are you going to do it again? Like, right afterwards, it was like, when's the next one? I was like, yeah, we lost like $35,000. Like, I don't think I want to, like, if we're going to be in business, I don't think we need to be doing this. Like, we're losing people's income. Like, that was an opportunity, someone's job right there. We could have employed someone with that.
Yeah.
Then compounded with, the pandemic, we were all thinking like it was going to be a good year for us. We had better clients, we had a better vision, and I wanted to stay away from the things that did not make me feel good, losing money and throwing just grandiose parties. And we were like, we're gonna empower and employ some people this year. We're gonna employ more people this year. And so there was a shift that happened. And but like the good thing is, like as you kind of stated, it's good that you were able to identify that, like, hey, this might not be what I want to do now, and you might have to evolve. And Mary Outlaw might be something else next year, but still bringing in community.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'll say about the parties, I really relate because we had an art party last summer, 2019, and we gave a bunch of young artists booth space for free at the Hangar in Crossroads. And then we got people drunk and had DJs, and they sold their art and made a lot of money. And it just felt good. It felt like everybody understood that we're here to like support local artists, and people wanted to spend their money. It wasn't like going to First Fridays where you're overwhelmed with tons and tons of artists. It was like all these people here. We had like a little family of 10 young artists. And, I feel that as I'm planning it and cleaning up afterwards and assessing and reflecting, I'm like, this was so amazing. Like the people who were at the party felt that, but then how do you keep that going? That's the hard part. Like everybody, I do believe we were all like on the same wavelength that night, and people were like, this is good. This is we're not just getting drunk with DJs, we're supporting each other. And a lot of cool relationships came out of that, where artists ended up working together. And anyway, but yeah, it's like to keep that going. We're such a culture of like instant gratification, and we want to feel something now, and trying to make people understand more of a long-term concept. It's hard to keep them keep their attention. And so that's definitely something that I can relate to.
Yeah, it does. That appreciation aspect is, I know that you're an empath, and I've talked to, I think most people that we've done interviews with have been the empath side, meaning that, they actually have a care in this world, they GAF, and like, it's really hard to put yourself out there sometimes, and then you can get scrutinized for that.
Yeah.
Right. And I know that you have been scrutinized for putting yourself out there. And it's like, you think that you're doing a good thing, but yet someone else has a different idea about you. And it's such an extreme thing to think about, right? Because like, you feel like you're living your life with good intent, right?
Yeah.
And then someone else has this whole different character chart on who you are. This person did this because of this, and then this person thinks they're this and that. And I think it's all subjective. Like, I generally think that most people don't really think about, it's not designed that way. Like if someone's like, when a girl starts making fun of a guy, what do? Oh, well, he and he said this. Like,
yeah, of course.
It's not what it really is,
Right.
But sometimes it can be like the awareness check that you need, where you're like, oh, damn, I'm sorry I made you feel that way. That was not my intent. You've went through that, right?
Yeah, totally. And there's a difference between, like, at the beginning when I had this whole, like, the for-profit restaurant concept that we were going for, and I had so many people just like shit on my ideas. And it was hard to hear because I've accomplished a lot. If I want something, I'm going to find a way to get it. It may not be the way that I think it's going to go, but I will get there. And I still believe if I wanted to go that direction, I would have found a way to make it happen. But to see how many people were like, ooh, Lindsay, like, restaurants, not a good idea. And you've never owned a business before. Nobody has ever owned a business before when they start their first business. Like, that's a ridiculous thing to say to a young person, And so that that stuff you really have to just push off and ignore. And it took me a couple of times to be like, all right, thanks for your opinion. Don't care, moving on. But the other stuff too, it's like, yeah, like I said about my position as a white woman in this, I definitely understand my privilege, and I have to check that constantly. And what I like about mutual aid is that it really takes out the sort of like almost oppressive nature that even nonprofits can be sometimes, where someone comes in with a lot of resources and means and time and energy, and we're just giving it away to people and making them feel like we've saved the day. And that's shitty, and it doesn't really lead to any long-term change. And so the way things have sort of progressed with the Merry Outlaw and how it's become more of a mutual aid concept, it always was, but it's definitely becoming more of that. It puts me in a good position because I get to learn a lot from everybody who's involved, and I'm not centered in this, and I don't want to be. I hate even being on camera right now. I'm like, ugh. But I like to be the ideas, and I like to make other people's ideas happen, but I've definitely had to sort of, examine my role in all of this a lot.
Well, lucky for you, we do have podcast listeners too. So there are YouTube watchers, and then we have podcast listeners. Yeah, like that, I see a lot of myself in you. And I think that's like vice versa. Like we have that respect for one another and what we want to accomplish. But I definitely understand what you mean by that. It seems like that story of, that poor kid in Africa with the flies on his head, like,
right.
Like every year it's like this minute-long commercial, right? Mm-hmm. And then like if you do like the deep dive, realize that kid may or may not be supported or not, who knows, but they're only getting like 1% of the dollar that's being delivered to them, right. Like, and so like they put all this marketing efforts into it. And at what point in time, does a role of a nonprofit still have that impact if it's massively contingent on how much marketing that they put towards something and how much dollar goes to the actual resourceful need, Right. And so I think it's like, it's good and bad when I see stuff like that, because it's like, it still brings awareness to other aspects for people to think that they need to care about something like that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's like, that might not be the direct cause for someone to say, I know that my dollar is going to go towards this one thing. And so that's what I do appreciate about the Merry Outlaw Mutual Aid Fund. It seems as, expenses all aside, you're directly helping an individual. Mm-hmm. Like there's operational costs for anything and everything, but like you are actually going direct to helping an individual rather than this whole general, let's raise a whole bunch of money and then someone else fixes the problem for us.
Totally.
Yeah, it sucks. That sucks when like people don't have an idea of like knowing like not everything is equal as you think it is. Like paying's a good part, like that's really cool. But if they can also play their part in many other ways, it's not like this is one thing. Oh, I did my good thing for the year, right. To be a more human person, there's a lot of things that we can do every day.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I like that with the app, you can leave notes. So you can write a little memo when you make your request, and then people can donate and leave a little note. And it was just like, I try not to get too caught up in the emotional side of things because I am an empath, and I will get really like jazzed up or like really upset if there's not enough donations. And I see someone's donation, like in the first month, it fucked me up. I was, I'd see someone's donation sit for a week or their request, and I would just be like, oh my God, this has to get filled, because I knew those people were experiencing crisis. Like that's what this is for. $300 is not a lot of money, obviously. If someone's making that request, it's because they can't pay their rent. They need food in their mouths. Like it's urgent, And so, 100% of the donations go directly to somebody. And it is cool. A lot of people who've received donations through their requests have come back months later and made donations to other open requests and have sent me messages saying like, thanks for doing this. I am so glad I get to pay it forward. And that's what like the nonprofit model doesn't allow for. Like, if I receive a donation from you, it's great. It solves my immediate problem, but then I still have to feel like, I am in need and you have the things, and I don't have the opportunity to return to you any kind of favor. And, I'm not an idiot and I can make money myself. And I also want to give things, and that makes me feel good. So why are we taking that away from the receiving end of things, with nonprofits? So I like that about mutual aid a lot.
For sure. I love that. So, us being a marketing company, how have you started to market your business, and how's the marketing changed throughout?
Well, I'm not very good at marketing, so I
sometimes still here.
Yeah, I sometimes cannot believe that anyone follows our Instagram page, because I don't know what I'm doing. And it's definitely been like trying to understand what people want to see and creating content that's like human centered and not like, we did the portrait project in the beginning where we were sharing people's stories. I loved that. Every time we did it, people ended up making friends and hanging out for a while. And I always just ordered pizza and had beers, and just the connections outside of them getting their photo taken I loved that. So that was like a cool, easy way to market kind of the values of the Merry Outlaw. But lately we're just seeing so much. I find myself doom scrolling all the time. I just bought a light phone. Did I tell you about that?
Oh yeah, you did. We'll talk about that next.
Yeah, so I am trying to be less connected, but then also I want to be connected enough to let people know what's going on with the Merry Outlaw. So it's a constant struggle. But I think that the next step, as I've seen donations have dipped significantly in the last couple of months, is that I want people to understand what mutual aid means. And it's an anarchist concept, it's like, but it's very good and wholesome and community driven. And I think that if more people understood that, they're more likely to buy in and, want to be a part of it long term, rather than just saying, oh, cool, I have some extra money once or twice I want to give to this website. And so that's my next push is going to be, I want to kind of started creating a toolkit about what mutual aid is. And I hope that people will, want to learn a little bit, and maybe you can help me with that.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to own it. Yeah, well, that's very like genuine, very cute. That was the cutest way of being like, I don't know much or whatever, but it's your marketing concept's been really word of mouth, and it looks like it's probably came from a lot of early adopters or friends. But yeah, I think that's everyone has a different path of marketing. And as you grow, you're going to realize that there's going to be other areas and avenues for you to do things that are going to be, a lot more the 21st century, But yeah, it's like for you, what I think that you could do well, you're doing well at right now, is just basically still showing that presence. And I think the word of mouth aspect through the mutual aid fund, I think that's like marketing in itself. Knowing that you have that's something that you should be marketing constantly, for sure.
Right. And now that we're not, we're not a for-profit business, no money comes into the Merry Outlaw at all. Basically, at this point, if we receive donations via our website, we distribute those immediately amongst open requests. And I'm totally fine with that for now. So knowing that I have no budget, nothing, I can't hire someone, I can't pay myself anything. It makes it easier, and I'm less hard on myself now, knowing that, I'm doing what I can. But I think it was important from the beginning for me to create a kind of cool I wanted people to think it was cool and interesting, because our eyes see so much every day on our phones that I needed to be like a little bit different. I feel like a lot of really cool organizations in Kansas City don't get noticed because they don't even have enough money to, fund their actual projects. And so of course they're not going to go hire some artist to make a cool design and web presence. And so I know as a young person, I have a lot of artist friends that have helped me along the way, and that's been important. And it's made people feel like they're part of something, I think, that's not just some random organization they hear about once a year.
Yeah, I love the cartoon aspect, the community cartoon aspect that you have within your brand. Like, I'm almost jealous that we didn't come up with something like that. No, it's beautiful though. So, I mean, so what are you going to do in order to make yourself more sustainable for the years to come? Like, because you're going to have to get to this point where you're paying yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you have to. This doesn't mean that you need to make $1 million or whatever, but you're going to have to pay yourself eventually, and you're going to have to hire people in order for this thing to continue to gain more momentum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't know yet. I'll just be super honest. I could like give you some kind of half-ass answers here. I don't
That's okay.
know where it's going to go, but I have met recently with a couple of other mutual aid organizations and projects in Kansas City. And so this will not make us any money, but I think streamlining a lot of our processes for mutual aid, and like I just said, that whole education piece of it, to show there's a group that's wanting to start mutual aid for local artists. There's KC Tenants, which they do amazing work, and they have mutual aid fund for their activists and organizers. KCDSA, and there's an awesome Facebook group that helps people exchange resources. So what I really want to do is kind of create sort of a coalition and get like a Patreon or something where people can monthly subscribe and donate $10 a month or whatever they feel comfortable with, so that we do have some money that can at least be, we can more urgently get it to folks who are in crisis for the time being. And I know, hopefully things will get back to normal with the economy soon. I don't know, but we're planning for the worst, because why wouldn't we this year,
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, we, at the beginning of the pandemic, we lost 90% of our revenue because people they didn't know where they were going to be with marketing. Mm-hmm. And then we were able to get scrappy and creative and coming up with more package solutions for small businesses. And that really helped because it was all about getting that path to growth for them and to keep us going. It was like we needed to provide services, whereas we got to be working on something. If 90% of your revenue goes away, you have nothing to work on other than getting more clients. And so the healthy thing is there's a lot of online activity that's happening. And so tapping into that, I think that's going to be really important for you and every other business out there. But yeah, for you, like content wise, what kind of content do you guys foresee yourself making for the Merry Outlaw in response to what we're doing right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's a sort of global shift right now on how we all see the economy, obviously, and our government's role in our crises. And a lot of people are feeling like the systems that they've depended on, that we were taught to trust, are not showing up for them. The stimulus, it's like a joke, basically. A lot of countries are figuring out how to take care of their people, and we're not really. And so I think this shift is going to change people's perspective and help us learn to rely on each other more. So content-wise, I want to reflect that. I want people to feel like we've got each other's backs. It's scary kind of to think like, oh, even as a donor, when you say like, I have $300 to give, I'm going to give it to a nonprofit organization, because I understand that when I give to a nonprofit, then I get this tax receipt, and I trust these people because they have full-time jobs here to do what's right with the money. It's confusing for people to think, what if I just gave $300 to a person? Especially like older generation, my parents, I had to like really explain this to them. Like, we trust that these people who are in crisis know what to do with their money, right? Like, who am I to say, like, let's see a receipt for that? These people are truly in crisis, and we have to trust each other as donors and as people who are requesting. They have to trust that we're not going to like strip them of their dignity and put their names on the app, and you know what I mean? So I really want to create content that creates trust amongst each other as things really start to change.
I like that. I like that. So let's get back to that light phone.
Yeah.
So you were just getting just overwhelmed with, just everything that's going on, and you
Yeah.
wanted to strip it down and
Hmm.
just get the jitterbug.
Yeah. I always feel like I'm like, I don't have a problem with social media, right? Like I don't find myself comparing my life to other people's, but it's actually impossible. I truly believe this. Like you can be the most confident person, and when you're scrolling and these images are just hitting you one after another, there's the like the state of the world right now. Sometimes I get so depressed just like reading, just scrolling, that I have to turn my phone off and like cry for a minute. Like I'm a big empath, so I can't take on that much negativity, you know? Um, so yeah, the light phone, I went without Instagram for like 3 or 4 months. I took a road trip by myself for 6 weeks. I just hopped in my Prius and went with no plan. And it was so nice being like disconnected from everything for a while. And, I knew that fucked up things were happening, but I was like, I'll learn about it tomorrow. I just kind of was putting off the doom basically. And I was happier then. And then I got Instagram back and thought, well, I want to be connected. And during quarantine, you do want to like see people's lives and connect with them. But I am not so sure that that's good enough to outweigh the bad. So I'm getting a light phone, which only calls, texts, and gives you maps. So,
You know, I picture you doing this because you still have your iPhone, right?
mm-hmm.
And then you have the light phone, and you have to take the card out to put into the
Yeah.
iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you're gonna like drop it into like a gutter or something like that as you're like swapping out SIM cards, and you're like, no, you have zero connectivity in the world.
Yeah, I
My
am a
bad. I'm
risk.
gonna knock on wood right now.
I think I'll be okay. I'm gonna try to like put my phone away because I still want to have music and playlists for the car that I could download on my iPhone. But I want to be able to like put it in a drawer. And then if I want to have an hour of scrolling and news reading every night, well, I can do that. But just to, it's like in your hand all the time. And when I've gone to, I think I told you this, when I went to the coffee shop across the street, I go every morning now just so I can like see humans before I work from home all day alone. And I started going without my phone, and I'd like smile at people and be like, good morning. And it was like I was a weirdo for like trying to interact with them in real life because everyone's just looking at their phones. So
Yeah, our heads are down in our phones quite often. For me, the comparison game, I'm going to compare myself to you. I definitely felt at one point in time, I hit that wave where it was like, gosh, everyone's just like chiming. But that didn't like feel like me at all. You know, frustrated, kind of, but more like, I just think that people are gathering there because they want to escape whatever the reality is. And for me, there's an escape of reality, but my reality is what I want to project and put out there. And so I started muting a lot of people.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so the tools are there. And then I've utilized the time spent, like it's a hard stop at an hour and 15 minutes. And that's a lot of time on social media, hour 15. But, we are in business, and like we have a social side to our business. It's not the only side to our business, but, we do need to see what's going on. And yeah, I think the challenge for a lot of people is to know when enough is enough. And if something doesn't make you feel good, you should do something about it, as you've done. And for me, I've muted a lot of people, but I honestly I just think people are different when they're face to face, right?
They are. I'm like,
And
why aren't you so funny online? Tell me something
yeah,
funny.
yeah. So like, I think people like where we're at right now. And I preface this because I am very biased and thinking that we got a way to solve the world's problems. But me and some business partners are working on that solution in order to get people more interactive with one another and making people feel good. And so I saw it as a problem that didn't make me feel good, but it's like there's a problem that I want to solve. And so, and just like hearing people like you, where it's like, yeah, I was getting overwhelmed, like gosh, yeah, we need to do something about it. And so, yeah, we've been developing, and we've got something that's going to cost a lot of money. And but we're pretty close to like getting it done, like really close to getting it done. So
It's gonna make me want to get my iPhone back.
yeah, 100%. I think this is going to be right up your alley for sure. But yeah, like the social aspect is like, it's life. It's like here to stay. The
Mm-hmm.
problem that we've had was the fact that we have accepted that this is the way it is, right?
Yeah.
And no one's like willing to really do anything about it. And then also it's like a 20-year experiment. Social media has been around for at least 20 years. And I don't know if you had MySpace, but you've probably hit every single level of
Zanga.
social media. And it's crazy because none of us knew what that was going to look like, a decade away, a decade at a time. And now it's pretty interesting, and so we have to do something better, like all
Yeah.
of us. And so
And there has to be a better solution. I'm excited to hear what
there's,
you're doing because going off the grid is like, it feels good. But then, like I told you I left Instagram for 3 or 4 months and I loved it. And then I was just like, oh, I miss people. Like, I want to see what everyone's up to. And so I'm going to go off the grid with this light phone and see how it goes. But you gave me the idea to sort of like do a vlog of like a confessional of my experiences with the light phone. And I think something that makes me really sad is that I love to write. I went to school to be a creative writer. It's my like passion, and I don't do it anymore unless it's like for an Instagram caption or a Facebook post. And so my art relies on like everybody's response to it. And I write in my journal, but it's not the same because I get kind of lazy and I'm not funny or interesting in it because it's just me. And so I like the idea of being able to have sort of this art and do this confessional thing where it's like becoming a project for me that I don't need to receive instant gratification from the internet for. And then I'll share it at some point and maybe people will like it. But having like somewhere to put my creativity that's not my own Instagram feed every single day is helpful, I think.
no doubt, like that is the point of connection that you want to have with people. You are trying to connect with people in a way that is going to be like really authentic to you. And sometimes what we do in social media is it's like we all have to like jump on this train. And no disrespect to any businesses in Kansas City, but if a company wanted to start a t-shirt company, what would they do? What do you think they would do in Kansas City?
Make an Instagram account? What?
Probably make a shirt that says Kansas City on it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so we become, more of the same rather than, trying to stand out or do something different, and that really speaks to you. And being an individual, I honestly give you way more credit for individuality, thinking like that. And because not a lot of people would be like, why? You're crazy. That's stupid or whatever. And I don't think that's dumb at all. Like I think whatever you're going through at any point in the moment, it's like it's for you to find out and figure out. And I think that you have good intent. I'm not as left, anarchist, whatever. Like I'm not like that myself. I'm a capitalist, but like I see people like at face value, like just because like I wouldn't align with everything that you have to say, or I don't align with anyone with everything that they have to say, just period.
Right.
Like I just look at it as a perspective thing, like my perspective versus someone else's perspective. And like, oh yeah, I can see why they think like that. I can see why this person thinks like that. And I feel somewhere either in between or strongly about this or that. I have my own thoughts about certain things. And so like getting back to your own thoughts, where the algorithm is not affecting you, because that's what the algorithm is doing. There's an AI formula. I'm going to tell you this much. Putting positive things out there versus sensationalized hate, you're going to get a lot more attraction to the sensationalized hatred. Right. And so it doesn't matter how good you are or how like great of a thing that you've got going on. WAP is going to get 1 million views. And mutual aid is going to get maybe 150 on video. And that sucks, you know? It is what it is. And you have to keep grinding harder than anyone and everyone. Like, you have to work harder to be a brighter and more, you know, giving person. Yeah. And, you know, like, we understood that. We understood that, like, that's the road that we're on. And, you know, positivity isn't always the coolest thing for a lot of people. And it's like,
we love the opposite. So
yeah, I want to be the opposite of that, you know. And, you know, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be positive until we eradicate negativity. So it looks like I'm going to be here for a while. Yeah, put the coffee, put the kettle on. We're gonna be here for a while for sure. So yeah, you know, like, no, I give you nothing but mad respect for that, because it's just a lot of people just assume that it is the way it is, and I have to be like this, and I have to feel this way. And yeah, you could do something about it, even if it's a short amount of time. You know, it's just like, hey, yeah, I mean, feels different, but I wasn't feeling the stress of the environment or the other problems. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think like being off the grid also it forces you to like listen to actual people. Like I do feel like my values are very socialist or possibly anarchist, but I also understand that you have a very special gift, and I can't judge you for wanting to do the things you love that work within a capitalist system. Like, I'm never going to be like, Dom, you should just sell all your shit. Also, I'm living in a nice apartment. I have a day job that pays me well. I am totally a part of this, you know, but I can even get to a place where I'm just seeing these same things online all the time that are reinforcing my beliefs, that make me feel guilty for living here and make me feel like every person who doesn't believe what I believe is wrong and hateful and crazy. And so I am trying to, you know, my views will probably remain pretty strong, but it forces me to really listen to people who are different than me. And the algorithm does not.
The algorithm does not give an F about you whatsoever. Exactly. But it wants you to spend more time on that phone. And so, you know, I will say this, you know, like, that aspect of, like, I get to that point too, where I'm like, man, dude, you're being way too radical about this. Like, you're talking way too much hate about this particular group and stuff like that. And it's like, I don't really understand hate, but I understand why people can be very conservative in their approach sometimes. And, but I just don't understand how people can be just like right, you know, down the line with every single issue on one side. It's not Bloods versus Crips. We are human, you know, like there's an aspect and element, like, if you take away, party affiliation or whatever it is, and you ask people questions, like, specifically, and then they would give you answers, I think that there'd be a lot more crossover. But as soon as you identify with one person or one particular party, they're like, oh yeah, whatever they say.
Totally.
And that's just, and so I feel like there'd be a lot more crossover on any side, and that's just kind of my own view. That's not for our listeners to be like, hey, this is how I need to think, but, you know, my own personal opinion is, it's like, well, yeah, some things are going to work, some things aren't going to work. And we have a system right now over years, a lot of years, that, like, we just keep on compounding interest on dollars and compounding problems on issues. And so we see how the experiment goes for one particular thing for a decade, and then it's like, oh, it didn't work, and we need to figure out another solution, and this is why this is going to be better. And then we're still back to where we started, you know, 20 years ago, a couple of decades later. And so, yeah, it's really important for us to know that it's like, yeah, we're going to evolve. Totally. No matter what, you're going to evolve, but make it a good evolution, you know? Like, I want to be a guy who is chilling and making some contributions to this world, not the angry old man. You know, when I'm 70 years old, I'm not going to be running for anything. Joe Biden or Trump, you're too old, you know, like, I I think I had my place. I'm done running the race when I'm 70, 78 or 75.
Let someone else
You know?
have this.
Yeah. Let's put a cap on that. You know, some degree, but you know, yeah, just like have fun. You know, like don't lose your spirit no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
You or the listener or anyone, you know, it's like we can still find things that make us laugh and come together. You know, like that's what I love about music and comedy. Music, it's like you get there and you're just listening, you're focusing on music.
Mm-hmm.
Comedy, you're sitting there to have laughter.
Mm-hmm.
And when you enter a room of comedy, if you ever been to a stand-up performance, you know, you have people generally coming together of all types. You know, there's some diversity that's being kind of like brought together, and people are laughing about the things that are uncomfortable to say. The comedian, that is their job, to bring up things that are kind of uncomfortable, and everyone's thinking it. And so, you know, seeing color and, you know, being able to relate with people, you know, all of that's really important. So, yeah, don't let the world beat you down, young risk taker or old risk taker. I don't care what age you are. But other than that, so I sent you a text message, and I knew that you weren't feeling that great today. And so I want to give you a quick rundown before, and the questions that I asked you. I said, think about your weakness, and then also think about your superhero power or superpower. So let's hear the weakness first, then we'll get to the superpower.
Okay, so I think they may sort of be the same thing.
Okay.
Like I said earlier about my work ethic, it's like I can go so hard all the time, and I never say no to anything, and it burns you out. And I think, yeah, I just already went over this, but it's like learning how to make my decisions and my life and my projects sustainable is so important. Like I'm tired, you know, like I'm almost 32, and it's different than when I was 25. Like I need to get 8 hours of sleep now, and that's okay. And I sort of fell into this whole like hustler culture early. I felt like I had to hustle hard in my early 20s, and I'm really glad I did, because it taught me my work ethic that has gotten me a lot of good things. But yeah, it's hard for me to say no. I think maybe my superpower, I would say is my work ethic, and that I am really dedicated, but probably my empathy, my ability to like understand people. My day job, I sell Medicare supplement insurance to people over 65. It sounds very boring, but I talk to seniors from all over the country, and especially this year, like hearing a lot of people's political views, you know, like COVID's not real. I'm like, Carl, you're 80 and you have COPD. It's real. Like, trust me, stay inside your house. But, you know, like it's been good for me to get to listen to people who have totally different views than me talk about, you know, Trump supporters, which I certainly am not, and understand that like everybody is just scared. Like everybody who is hateful is really just scared of something. And I have really firm beliefs, and I feel very radical politically, but also I understand that like a person's experiences are their own, and like if I can listen and understand that better, then I can probably work on changing their mind, or like bringing us closer in our beliefs and make them see what I see, and maybe I can see what they see now. So being an empath, yeah, like that's part of the reason I have to get rid of my phone, because my heart just like hurts too bad all the time.
That 85-year-old Carl just wants to go hang gliding. Like he doesn't want to stay inside, you know.
It's all a hoax. I'm like, dude, trust me.
He wants to live his life. He's 85. He wants to go hang gliding. You know, like, and just to lead off of that, you know, when it comes down to us just thinking about like that topic of like, we are just scared, or if we're feeling hatred or whatever it may be. Yeah, there's a lot of like self-reflecting, but not everyone has that awareness to identify that, of like what that fear is.
Right.
And so, and then even, you know, if I were to put myself into a white man's shoes, and I lived in Norfolk, Virginia, or somewhere in the mountains or something like that, and I've never been around diversity, and where I've never understood like other people's beliefs, like I could, I'll probably end up being this hateful person or whatever based off of what I've been consuming, so it's, to some degree it is their fault. Some degree it's not, but there's a system aspect of that diversity isn't, really there, and it's a system. There's like a lot of other issues that made that person this way.
Right.
They are a byproduct of, their environment. And so I don't fault them. It doesn't mean that we're going to align on a whole bunch of things and they get a hall pass, but like, I do understand that not everyone's going to think and have the same experiences as me, but, I can at least have an honest conversation without blowing my lid, Right. I can, like, literally all things I can walk away from. If it doesn't make me feel good, move on. And last but not least, is there anything that you would like to get off your chest before we wrap this up? I'm going to have to edit that.
What do I need to get off my chest? I just had a thought and I forget now about, not really related. Yes, what you were saying about people's experiences. I just think that there's a fine line between like accountability and responsibility and empathy and forgiveness. So for me personally, for example, I was in a really bad, abusive domestic violence situation. And I think, part of me stayed a little longer than I should have because I had empathy for my abuser because of the abuse that he had experienced. Like, I knew where it was coming from, right? It's like his childhood was fucked up and he was abused, and now he just is traumatized. So he's hurting me now. But then at the end of the day, it's like, that sucks, but also you have to address your trauma so that you're not hurting other people. So it's the same thing for these, for a racist person. Like, I get it sort of based on your environment, but there's not really an excuse for you to not work on it. You don't have to be perfect tomorrow, but you need to be like, as a white person, you have to do the work. There's not an excuse. Sorry what you've been through. We all have shit that we've been through and you got to fix it. Like, I go to therapy because I don't want to hurt my future partners in a relationship because I haven't dealt with my shit. So I think that I try to apply that lens to, everything. Like, I can be forgiving and empathetic, and I can also hold you to a certain level of accountability. So.
Respect. I like that. That was a nice ending right there for sure. Listeners, viewing audience, like and subscribe. Please share if this speaks to you. Follow Lindsay and the Merry Outlaw at
the Merry Outlaw.
At the Merry Outlaw on Instagram, and also their website. Their website is
outlawmutualaid.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening. Until next time, live freely, stay positive. Peace out.
Thanks,